Greetings, and thank you so much for joining us for today's Total Attorneys Power Chat. Our topic of the day is how to run an effective virtual law firm. And Jay Fleishman will be joining us and sharing his expertise and experience with us today. If you have questions during or after the session, feel free to email powerchat@totalattorneys.com, and you're welcome to email me directly as well, Chelsea, Chelsey, @totalattorneys.com, and I will be happy to answer any questions related to the session or send you over to Jay for his input. Jay is a consumer bankruptcy attorney operating a practice out of New York, also the author of Legal Practice Pro, a blog for legal practice management tools, tips, advice, and experiences from his own life and practice. And he's also avid on Twitter. @JFleishman is his username or handle, and you'll be able to reach him. And we do encourage that you follow Jay. He's got some great input and advice that he shares and links to other helpful information that he shares with us on Twitter. And to get into today's conversation, we're going to talk about 3 different types of virtual law offices. The first being purely virtual, meaning that you are a 100% virtual practice, that you practice from home or a location where you may be in a different place than you're licensed to practice. If you're practicing from a vacation home or are living outside of the country but still want to practice in the area where you're licensed to practice, you can do that with a virtual practice. You can also choose to work from home in the area that you are licensed and practice to those local around you. The brick and mortar with an online arm is a law office which not only has in-person offices but offers a online extension, allowing them to service clients who are further out than they normally would, expanding into different geographic areas or practice areas, and also offering their clients increased access to their files and a higher level of customer service through offering online tools for discussions or document exchanges, maybe making payments, and a variety of services that can be offered that way. Then you have the virtual and physical hybrid. And the virtual and physical hybrid is a firm which is partially virtual but also offers a online extension or a temporary office space is used to meet with clients who need that face-to-face appointment or who you would like to have that face-to-face relationship with. These firms typically work out of their home offices or remotely from various locations, but then also use temporary office space either being rented or subleased from another firm in their area or through solutions such as Regis, which is part of the larger HQ organization where you pay a small dollar amount per month in exchange for a certain time allowment or access to shared office space. And jumping into the purely virtual office, 100% virtual law firm with no physical office, operating online, generating new business through networking or marketing activities, and many practices in different states than the states which they reside. So if you originally were licensed to practice in Texas, but now you live in North Carolina, you can still operate a virtual firm servicing Texas residents and Texas cases while being able to live in the place where you would like to. Virtual offices often service larger geographic areas than the areas where they reside or would typically be serviced by a physical office. When you have a physical office, you have one location or more than one location, and your clients generally come from the surrounding areas. When you have a virtual practice, you're no longer limited to those geographic boundaries. You can expand your practice into a multitude of other areas. Operating online, generating new business through networking or marketing activities, these are key requirements for any successful virtual law office. The foot traffic that you may see with an in-person office or a physical location is not present in the virtual environment. And you will need to attract clients in different ways, whether that be directing traffic or marketing using online tools to drive traffic to your website so that they can meet you there, or circulating and participating in local networking groups. Also using social media as a marketing avenue. Many practicing in different states than where they live use the internet as their primary form of marketing, possibly some print advertising and other vehicles. But the purely virtual office is really an office that relies mainly on attracting clients through a website or through face-to-face networking activities and driving that activity through their virtual law office online instead of meeting those clients face-to-face for the first time. And I'll hand it over to Jay to talk about the brick and mortar with an online arm.
Sure. Well, the brick and mortar office is exactly what we've come to recognize as a law office, a place with lawyers' desks and diplomas hanging on the wall and books that nobody reads anymore sitting in the conference room and all that good stuff that people think about when they think about lawyers' offices. And it's what most people are still experiencing in their day-to-day professional life. Now, the online arm can be thought of as a remote office that doesn't really physically exist in the tangible universe. It's giving the ability to the attorney as well as to the client to do things like go online and make an appointment, to go online and view files in your matter, to be able to communicate with your attorney and other members of the firm who are working on a given matter through a secure extranet and a chat facility. And so really it's more of an extension of customer service and client service than anything else. And that is what we have in my current firm. The way that we've structured things is as a brick and mortar operation where we have people working and clients are more than welcome to come in and have consultations and client meetings with us and do all of that stuff, or the opportunity to deal with us solely through an online workspace.
Great, and this is also a good scenario for firms who might want to reach into more rural areas but keep their core practice located in a specific location as well.
Absolutely, or vice versa. And one of the things that a lot of people come to me when I'm helping people put together virtual law offices is as a consultant. I don't do any I don't create technology for anybody. But one of the things that people bring to me as a major concern is, well, my clients are all in rural areas. They don't have internet access that's quite as reliable as we might otherwise want. But the one thing that lawyers don't realize is that most of the technological needs for a virtual law firm are yours, not your client's. Your client may not want or be able to get access to their file online, but they may just want to be able to deal with you by phone instead of having to come into the office. Well, even the most rural of clients in this day and age has access to a telephone. That's just part of the fabric of our lives at this point. So I want you to just bear that in mind as you kind of go through with these things.
And the last type of virtual law firm that we'll talk about before moving into the technology piece is the virtual physical hybrid. So shared office space or a home office with a part-time office space or meeting space to meet with clients on a regular basis somewhere outside of their home office. And can you dive into this one a little bit?
Sure. Well, this is really the easiest way for a physical law firm to begin to expand their reach into the virtual space because it gives all the comforts of having it both ways. It really is allowing somebody to have their cake and eat it too. You're able to work from home or a co-working space or the beach or wherever it is that you feel like making your quote-unquote home base. For me, it happens to be my dining room table, which is where I'm sitting right as we speak. So you get to work wherever you want, but you've got the fallback position that if you've got a client who wants to meet with you face-to-face, and a lot of people still like to meet face-to-face. It gives you the opportunity to meet with them face-to-face without requiring you to have a full-time office. And there are a lot of options for this. There's Regis, which is owned by a company called HQ, so some of them are branded as HQ, some of them are branded as Regis. There are co-working facilities. There are office share facilities. There are, even in small towns and more rural areas, there's always an accountant or a real estate office or another lawyer who's got, spare space that they're happy to let you use for a nominal fee on a daily or weekly or hourly basis. One of the really great unsung heroes of this virtual physical hybrid is the Bar Association and your court system. Most courts have attorney conference rooms. Most bar associations have places for attorneys and clients to meet. I like using these facilities, first of all, because it gives me a reason to pay my bar association membership, which in New York is voluntary. It's not a prerequisite to being admitted, so it gives me a reason to pay those fees because I'm actually going to get some value out of it. But with respect to meeting clients at court, if you're in court already, you don't have to travel, so that's good. If you're a litigator and you happen to be there for a calendar call, you can meet a client while you're still in the building. But also it does a lot psychologically for the client as far as their sense of trust and social proof, because they look at you and they say, well, my lawyer's already in the court. He must have or she must have a reason to be there. They're working hard. They've got other clients, so other people trust them, so I should trust them also. And I'm not telling you to try to I'm not telling you to be disingenuous and to lie to your clients, but that additional sense of authority certainly doesn't hurt. And a lot of people who work from home kind of have this self-esteem problem. Oh my God, I work from home. I'm somehow less of a professional, and that shows through in your professional dealing. So if you're using some of these readily available spaces, it kind of helps you deal with your own sense of that self-esteem problem, and that translates as well very positively to your clients. So that's the physical virtual hybrid.
Great, and we're going to move on to timing and technologies. And I think there's a lot of stages as you're beginning to figure out the structure of your virtual law firm and what to use along the way. There's kind of 3 different categories we'll talk about today. Office basics, those really essential tools, phone, fax, email, calendaring that you need to operate any business. And then getting deeper into actually servicing clients, we'll talk about case management tools, and then finishing up with virtual law office technology, full scale, that includes credit card processing and other options. Jumping into the office basics, phone, answering, fax, remote file access, and calendaring. Jay, can you tell us about what you have used at different stages in your firm and what you use today?
Sure. First, I'd like to pave the way for this conversation by disclosing a couple of things. First of all, I do not provide unbundled legal services. I provide full representation from start to finish the same way that any physical office would provide full representation. That's part and parcel of the area in which I practice, the type of practice that I have. So I'm going to come to this as a full service provider rather than a provider of unbundled legal services. That's first. Second of all, there is a tendency to, and I've blogged this fairly extensively, there's a tendency for people to hide behind something when they work from home or when they're a virtual practitioner. And I think that is doing a disservice to you, to the profession, and to your clients. It's disingenuous. It is not transparent. I am very upfront with my clients that I work from home. I don't have a physical office. I mean, I do, but my partner's there, and if you want to meet with my partner, that's great. You could surely go ahead and do that, and I'll help you to do that. But if you want to work with me, I work from home. I work from home because I've got a young son. I like to be here when he gets home. I'm not a big fan of putting a suit on in the morning. I've got a dog I like to take for a walk in the afternoon. I do better work when I'm in, shorts, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap than when I'm dressed to the nines to go to the office. If you are interested in working with me, then this is part of our deal with one another. Don't expect to be able to make an office appointment to see me because that's just not going to happen. I understand that it doesn't work for everybody, and that's cool. I don't need to be the lawyer for every single consumer bankruptcy client, and quite frankly, not every consumer bankruptcy client is a good fit for me. That's an issue of marketing that you need to be able to grab a handle on, because if you work virtually and you're not 100% upfront with it, you're going to suffer a loss of trust. And when you lose trust, it is impossible to get it back. You just can't get it back. It's impossible. So I use that all as a preface. So let's talk about phone systems. My phone system that I use is called Grasshopper. They're available at grasshopper.com. It's a stupid name and a great system. What it is a virtual PBX system. A PBX, in case you don't know the lingo, is if you open up the closet to where your phone system is held and there's that big box with 1,000,000 wires out of it and you don't know where any of the wires go to or come from, that's a PBX. It is a centralized phone system that when somebody calls in, they get either an operator or they get an auto attendant, and you can dial somebody's extension, and there's hold music and voicemail boxes, all that stuff. Grasshopper is a service that takes that box and takes it out of your office. Now, that having been said, Grasshopper uses POTS lines, plain old telephone service. They do not use computer phone service. They have wires, and I like that because wires are more reliable. I don't care how reliable the internet is. Heck, Google went down on Sunday at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK and Scotland. Like, Google was offline, didn't exist. Biggest tech company that there is at this point, totally web-based. If they can fail, you can fail. You don't want to have to deal with that when you're dealing with your telephone, which is still the primary means of communication. So, and there are other services that use voice over IP. There's Ring Central, which is very good. I know a lot of people who use it. I don't, specifically because I'm looking for plain old telephone service. When you sign up for Grasshopper, you get a local phone number. When you get that local phone number, that is yours. You can give it away to people. You can tell people about it. You can put it on your business card and your Yellow Pages ads and your website and all that jazz. Somebody dials in, and if you call my office at 646-722-8649, you will hear Grasshopper in action, because that is the local number that I got when I signed up with Grasshopper. Incredibly full-featured stuff. Somebody dials an extension, that extension can ring anywhere you want it to ring. It can ring to your home, your cell phone, your Skype line, your, wherever. I don't care where it rings. It can ring anywhere. What that does is it gives you the ability to be wherever you want to be, and then just go into the web interface, which Grasshopper has, and say, okay, here's the number to call me at today if somebody needs to dial my extension. Grasshopper also lends itself very well to using virtual assistants and outsourcing, which we're going to speak about. I have 2 virtual assistants who do all of my appointment scheduling. They're very good. They're in Florida. I've never met either of them ever. Wouldn't know who they are if they walk down the street and punch me in the face. But they're very good at what they do. When somebody calls in and dials our extension for brand new clients, that extension rings to one of their phone numbers, and whoever's there picks it up. If you're not there, you get a voicemail box. Voicemails come to you by email with an MP3 attachment, which is really handy because I save those MP3s in my client files. So that's my phone system. I don't use an answering service. I don't. I have in the past, but I am not inclined to use a service that's only function is to take messages. I think that if I'm going to have a live person, when somebody dials 0 for an operator, that live person had better be invested with the ability to do something for the client. Because if somebody hits 0, there's a damn good reason for them doing so. I use a company called Call Ruby, C-A-L-L-R-U-B like boy, Y.com. They're located in Oregon. They are fantastic. They answer my phones when somebody dials 0. I think it's like 6 a.m. to like 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. When somebody calls in, they dial 0 off of my Grasshopper line. They dial 0, they get patched into Call Ruby. They ask for, say, me. Call Ruby then calls me and patches the call in. They are professional. They are well-versed. They are experienced. They are friendly. They are friendlier than I am sometimes. They're friendly. They're always available. My clients love them. They get through to me when they need to get through to me. They can take messages when they need to take messages. They also do what's called outcalling. Every morning I email them a list of people whose appointments need to be confirmed for either to speak to me or my partner or go to court. The next day they make those phone calls for us. The cost of that service is far less than a comparably equipped physical receptionist. So they're wonderful, and they're widely used by the legal profession, probably because I've been waving the banner for Call Ruby for years. So that's my virtual receptionist. My fax service, I use a company called Max Email. Somebody goes to their fax machine, they dial my phone number, which is local. They drop their paper in the fax machine. It goes through. Instead of it being spit out the other side of a fax machine in my office, it gets spit out to me by email in PDF format. And I've been using them for years and years and years, and they've never failed, and it's wonderful. That having been said, there are a lot of those services around. There's eFax, there's MyFax, there's, I think, Rapid Fax, there's, a million of these services. They're probably all fungible goods. One's pretty much the same as the other. I found Max Email to be very useful for me. I like them. I rely on them. I trust them after so long, and there we go. Remote file access. I am not a sole practitioner. I have people that work with me. I've got a partner. I've got an associate. We have staff members in the office. We have staff members outside of the office. We all need access to the same batch of files. I use 2 services. And if you were on the call yesterday, you may remember that I used one service, and that service was called Dropbox. I now use a second service, which is called InSync, INSYNC, which just came out, and I'm in the process of doing a video training for it that'll be on my blog, legalpracticepro.com, and you can check it out there. What Dropbox does is it allows for synchronization of files across multiple machines and backup of those files to a secure cloud-based server. So I sign up for Dropbox, and I get a folder on my computer, a physical folder that is called Dropbox. Any files that I put in there are automatically synchronized back to the Dropbox central server, as well as synchronized among any other computer that is authorized for my account. So I have, I think, 10 or 12 computers that are authorized on my Dropbox account. So every time somebody saves a document to their Dropbox folder, that it gets synchronized and it magically shows up on my computer. What's nice about Dropbox is you can share specific folders only with other Dropbox users. In other words, people who are not authorized on your account. So what you can do is you can have a client sign up for a free level of Dropbox, which is up to, I think it's 250 megabytes storage, which is pretty big. They sign up for a free Dropbox account. You share their subfolder, their folder on your system, their client matter folder with them, and it shows up on their computer. It will also allow them to, if they have to get you documents, to just drop those documents into their computer, into their shared folder, and magically it appears on yours, which is pretty cool stuff. I'm also using InSync, which I just mentioned. That is a free plugin that's available in the Google Apps Marketplace. It works if you're using Google Apps for Business, which is just their enterprise-grade Google account. I use their free level of account, and it works real well for me. And it basically accomplishes the same thing as Dropbox, but it just syncs with Google, which is really nice. Calendaring and appointment scheduling, there are a couple of options. You've got Appointment Quest, which I use at www.appointmentquest.com. It allows you to essentially put all of your availability online for people to set up appointments. And it's kind of a robust system in spite of the fact that it's not very expensive. It allows you to block out time, allocate certain staff members to certain sorts of appointments. For instance, if you have a paralegal doing all of your initial consultations, an associate for certain types of work, and a partner for a third type of appointment, you can allocate them accordingly. You can set business hours and email reminders and really good stuff. There's also Google Calendar, which to me has fairly limited use in a law firm, but if you are a solo, I recommend looking into that. I use for my consulting practice, for my marketing and office management technology consulting practice, I use a web application called TungleMe, T-U-N like November, G-L-E.me, which is a plugin also available in the Google Apps Marketplace. It allows you to let people schedule appointments with you, and it synchronizes with your Google Calendar, and you can do some neat stuff with that. Also, I don't recommend that for anybody above a pure solo, because it's only going to sync with one Google Calendar, and if you've got more than one person in the office, it tends to get a little bit messy from a client side. So that's your Office basics.
Great. And the next step is to move a little bit higher up in the food chain and talk about case management tools that you're actually going to use to manage your client files, case management. On yesterday's call, you related case management to be very similar to project management. And can you tell us a little bit about the tools you've used?
Sure. I have used a number of tools for case management. And at this point, I actually use two separate tools for a variety of reasons and different types of my practice. For my consumer bankruptcy practice and the main part of my law firm practice, I use Rocket Matter. There is another, and that is an actual for lawyers case management system that operates much in the way that any case management system would. You know, you've got tasks and to-dos and notes and timekeeping, and there's escrow accounting and invoicing and calendaring and all that great stuff. And Rocket Matter is 100% cloud-based. I was a beta tester for Rocket Matter. I was also a beta tester for another system called GoClio, which has a case management functionality as well as some additional functionality that we'll talk about in a few minutes. I went with Rocket Matter for a variety of service-related issues, but at this point it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I have also in the past used a service called Basecamp, which is, I believe it's basecamphq.com. It's put out by a company called 37 Signals, which is based in Chicago and is a partially virtual company as well. That is a project management web system. It's very highly regarded. It's very well supported. It is used by, a bazillion companies in a bazillion sorts of organizations. There are some lawyers who use it as well. I've used it. I know that Chuck Newton down in Texas, who's also got a virtual practice, also uses it. And what the difference between project management and case management is really just terminology and skinning. Project management systems such as Basecamp give you to-do lists and deadlines and task reminders and note-taking functionality and timekeeping and document storage, all that stuff it allows you to have. The nice thing about Basecamp that Rocket Matter doesn't have, but Clio does have, is the ability to allow anybody access to a particular project. So for Basecamp, I can create an account for my client so that my client can log in and see their entire matter. Some lawyers may like that. Some lawyers may not really want their client to see their entire matter. It's, it's up to personal preference. That having been said, and I love Basecamp, and I've used Basecamp, and I have a Basecamp account. Basecamp costs me $100 a month because I'm at the highest possible level of usage and storage and encryption and all that good stuff. Basecamp costs me $100 a month. I also have a system, and the only reason that I have Basecamp there is I've got some legacy files that still need to be kind of wrapped up. But what I am actively using is an application called Active Collab, A-C-T-I-V like Victor E, C-O-L-L-A-B like boy.com. Active Collab is also a project management system. It does exactly what Basecamp does. The only difference is that instead of having everything on Basecamp's servers or somebody else's servers, Active Collab is something that you install on your own web server, not your Exchange server, your web server. So if you've got a hosting account for your domain name, you can set up Active Collab between usernames and passwords on a separate subdomain, and you can get a secure encryption so that the data is encrypted. And you can do that. Now, I'm a bit of a techie, so I did it myself. But even if you were having your IT guy install it, it shouldn't take more than about an hour to do. Active Collab cost me, I think it was $250, and once you buy it, it's yours. You get a year's worth of upgrades, and then if they upgrade afterwards, you got to pay whatever additional money. But it's yours. You're not renting the service. Whereas with Basecamp and Rocket Matter, you're renting the service. So you really want to take that cost into account and make a determination on what's going to work best for you. So that's case management.
And the next slide is virtual law office technology with payment processing. And these products have not only the case management tools that we saw in Rocket Matter and Basecamp, but they also have additional features that really suit firms who are handling clients online or have a strong client service option available for their brick and mortar firm, where they're offering prepared documents for fixed fees or offering the clients that extranet capability to be able to access or get to their files or speak to their attorney. And those would be Direct Law, AdvoLogix PM, Total Attorneys Virtual Law Office Technology, and Clio. And Clio is very similar to Rocket Matter, but does have client extranet capability.
Absolutely.
And Jay, do you...
And go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
And I think that Basecamp and Active Collab would probably also fall into this category as well because it does give you that extranet ability. And in fact, Basecamp plugs into a system called FreshBooks, which is an online invoicing system, which is very cost effective, and a lot of people use that as well. So that, in that respect, Basecamp would almost surely fit into this this line item, I guess, the screen. I am not a customer of DirectLaw, AdvoLogix, or Total Attorneys VLO Tech. Have never been a customer of any of them. And the reason is not because any of them are bad systems. VLO Tech came out just after I put my system together. And at the time I saw no reason to move, and at this point I'm old and set in my ways, and I wouldn't consider moving to any of these services right now anyway. That of course could change at any time depending upon my needs. But what these systems really do is they take the case management and they kind of tack on that extranet ability and that payment processing. I don't have any need for credit card payment processing. I do consumer bankruptcy work, but I couldn't take credit cards if I wanted to. You know, so I can't do that. Debit card processing, I've never really been a fan of with respect to bankruptcy work. I do some ACH, which is automatic clearinghouse, automatic electronic checks and stuff, but I do that on my own. So, you know, perhaps this payment processing may make some sense. And again, with respect to fixed fee work and pay for documents sort of thing, I don't do any unbundled legal services, so I can't really speak to it. If you've got something that you'd like to talk about, Chelsea, you know, floor's yours. You know more about this than I do.
The virtual law office technology product is oftentimes a great asset to attorneys who are looking to expand their geographic area or who are operating a 100% virtual practice. These applications are usually all-encompassing of all of the tools that you would see in a case management platform, but then also offer additional features like payment processing, where your clients will be able to pay for your services online with a credit card. They handle all of your time and billing, and then they also have that client extranet capability. So if you're looking to test out a virtual arm of your firm or get into a geographic area where you may not currently practice, we oftentimes see our clients licensed in states where they don't actually reside, where they may have gotten their license originally during the beginning of their career, but now they live in the place where they've always wanted to, whether that be on the beach somewhere or in their vacation home that's now become their permanent home, or they are traveling the world and being able to still practice with their clients in the U.S. So a lot of different scenarios there, very robust tools, usually billed on a monthly basis, and then a lot of them also have tiered options of service like DirectLaw, where you can offer documents for sale, and a document assembly piece becomes part of your practice management application, where a client will come to your website, get to know the firm, potentially enter their information into a form or a series of questionnaires if they're looking to purchase, just use a couple of examples, power of attorney or a simple will, or for small business law, business incorporation, things that are more transactional in nature, similar to the LegalZoom model, but with an attorney watching and guiding along the way. And on the other end, when the questionnaires are complete, the attorney receives a completed document which they can then review and return to the client for payment. AdvoLogix PM is similar in that way. Total Attorneys Virtual Law Office operates along the lines of forms and a strong client extranet with case management tools, calendaring, and payment processing. Clio, client communication tools and payment processing included there as well. And I think that covers the virtual office technology piece. And I want to move on to one of the most integral parts of any law firm, and that's the employees. This is a big question and a lot of investment here, whether you're realizing it or not. There's time investment, there's training. If you have an employee leave, then you have to take that time into account where you would need to retrain. So when considering options for employees in your organization, you've got in-house staff, virtual assistants who are assistants working for you but are not necessarily your full-time employee or don't necessarily reside near your offices, and then virtual receptionists, like we mentioned before, from companies like Call Ruby or Total Attorneys.
Yeah, everybody needs staff now and again. You can't do everything on your own, and you shouldn't do everything on your own. You may be an awesome lawyer, and you may suck at client billing. Well, if you do, then you shouldn't be doing your bookkeeping and your client billing. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. You know, it's the old saying, you've got to play to your strengths. I know a lot of lawyers who spend 80% of their time doing non-lawyer stuff. I just don't understand that. I never have. I don't think I ever will. So you're always going to need somebody to help you out to do stuff. Now, the question then becomes, are you going to have them in-house, or are you going to have them, as my partner calls it, offshored, in spite of the fact that everybody that we use is in the continental United States? When you're dealing with on-site employees, you're dealing with a couple of things that you always need to be very savvy to. If you're hiring somebody at $10 an hour to work in your office, you're really paying them about 20 bucks an hour. And the reason why I say that is you've got the $10 an hour that you're paying, you've got your payroll taxes, you've got your disability in the event that your state requires it. You've also got the real estate that you've got to have and to pay for in order to keep that person at work, physically located there. And that's a big deal. That's a lot of money. So even your $10 an hour employee, which translates into 20 grand a year, is costing you 40 grand a year. Now, you've got to be able to make your own decision on whether or not that $40,000 a year employee is really going to add enough money to your bottom line to be able to make it worth it. So they've got to be, their efforts have to be directly correlated to bringing you more than $40,000 a year worth of income, because you got to pay them, and you know we like to make profit on things. So that's the in-house staff. And of course your in-house staffer gets sick, quits, gets fired, you know, steals something, whatever it is. But that really happens with, that can happen with anybody. So, you know, that's the big justification for outsourcing. I think that makes no sense, because my one of my virtual assistants who does my appointment scheduling down in Florida, wonderful woman, she called me up about 2 weeks ago, told me that her dad had a stroke and she wasn't going to be around for a couple of days. Well, okay, that happens. But you've got to build that into your business plan. You've got to be able to have that backup of perhaps somebody else that can step in who maybe cross-train, things of that nature. But you know, if you're hiring an individual, don't go out and think that, you know, a virtual gets sick any less than a physically present employee. Your only stopgap measure for that is hiring a service. And that's one of the reasons why I went with Call Ruby for my virtual receptionist, because you know, if one is unavailable to do that, there's somebody else in the office. There's a company of people that all work interchangeably. So too with my VA who does my appointment scheduling, I've got 2 of them. Yes, both of them could very well be sick or suffer some grave fate at one time, but the likelihood is that I'm going to have one and a backup, which is exactly what I had when my first line person, when her dad had a stroke. So that's something that you've got to bear in mind. Virtual staff members, and and when I'm talking virtual staff members, I mean outsource folks. These are independent professionals who are really well trained at doing one specific thing. So you've got to be able to, it's almost like resecting a tumor. You've got to be able to resect an entire function, an entire job function, and be able to drop it into somebody else's lap that they can handle all four corners of it, like petition preparation for bankruptcy. That's something that is easily resectable, and you can give it to one person to handle the whole process. And if you find a professional that does really good work, then that's a good deal. So these are actual professionals who are well trained in their thing, who operate independently. Therefore, you are not paying payroll taxes. You don't have to buy them a computer and a phone and fax machine and, internet access and all that jazz. That's stuff that they're paying for. You don't have to have real estate that you're renting because they've got their own office. And so in that respect, it frees you up a little bit, because these folks will typically bill you on a per project basis, or more likely an hourly basis. And when you don't use them, you don't pay them. At the end of 2005, when every single bankruptcy lawyer in the entire country was seriously contemplating, going out and becoming a ditch digger because nobody was filing for bankruptcy because the laws had just changed, a lot of my friends and colleagues around the country were downsizing their offices. They were laying people off in droves. I never had to lay anybody off because all of that client-centric work was all being handled by virtual assistants. So the only thing was that they were getting fewer billable hours from me on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. My practice is far more scalable than if I were dependent upon somebody sitting in my office, because if we get too busy, then what do we have to do? We have to hire somebody else. Not so here. I can expand and I can contract as I see fit. And that's one of the great things about using virtual staff members. There are tons of professionals out there that do really good work, and you're not limited by your own geography. I happen to practice in a very expensive part of the country. I practice in New York City. For me to be able to find somebody really good, I've got to spend a hell of a lot more money than somebody who's living in a very rural area needs to spend for that same quality of person. So now I can go out. I've got virtual assistants in Florida, in Wisconsin. I've got somebody in New Mexico. I've got Call Ruby in Oregon, in places where people can do good work, charge me what they believe that is a living wage, a fair wage, which to them is fair and to me is fair because it's less expensive than I would have to pay here. And plus I've got a greater talent pool. There may be 3 really well-qualified people to do a particular job in my immediate area, but there may be, 8 of them in Houston, Texas. Well, now I can hire that person in Houston, Texas to give me the quality of work that I need to get done, in spite of the fact that I am thousands of miles away from them. And that's a great benefit of going virtual as far as employees are concerned.
And a couple of other benefits that we want to finish up with today are the reasons why we should consider and we should plan to expand into the online marketplace. There's been so much discussion about virtual firms. Your 2 blog posts come to mind in particular. Virtual is a Mindset and Death to the Virtual Firm on legalpracticepro.com got a lot of attention and comments from everyone. Lee Rosen, Carolyn Oliphant, Stephanie Kimbrough, Richard Granite, Jack Newton, Larry Port. Everyone is really moving the concept forward and advocating moving into the online marketplace. From your perspective, what are some of the reasons why attorneys should go there now or plan to go there in the near future?
If you're not doing business online, you will be out of business in 5 years. It's that simple. We're in September 2010 as I'm speaking to you today. Come back to me in September of 2015 and, you can crown me the winner of the competition. It's that simple. Internet connectivity has gotten to the stage where there is more high-speed internet access than ever before. People are comfortable with making transactions online that involve private and confidential information. You go online to pay your bills. You go online to check your credit card statement. You go online to determine how much money you have in your bank. These are kind of the most private institutions out there. These institutions really control everything in your life, and that's your financial position. So if you're comfortable with doing that online, tell me you're not going to be comfortable with doing something perhaps lower down that privacy totem pole in your mind. And the answer is, of course, yes. We live online. There was a study that came out just a couple of days ago, I think it was, that the average person spends 23.3 hours per month on Facebook. That's huge. That's a lot of Farmville. But we're spending our time online. We no longer suffer as a society from a lack of knowledge or information. When was the last time you went out with your friends to a bar or a restaurant, or were sitting in somebody's house and somebody says, hey, who sang that song? And when was the last time that somebody asked that question and somebody else in the group didn't pick up their phone or flip open their laptop and go to Google and type in who sang this song and get the answer immediately? So we're comfortable, and in fact we expect to be able to get the answers to all of our questions and the solutions to all of our problems by going to the big G, by going to Google or Yahoo or Ask or Bing or whatever it is. But we are living online, and like it or not, that's where it is. We are busier than ever before. We have less time. We have more stresses on our time, and we need to be able, as a society, to be able to get help of whatever nature it is as quickly and as easily as possible. And the online space allows us to do that. It's just the reality of the universe. And if you fail to acknowledge that reality, then I guarantee you that in 5 years you will not be in practice, and it would be a really good time to go back to school now so that you'll at least have a degree at the end of it. And you may think that I'm being cheeky, but I'm really not. You got 5 years, and you may have less than that.
And let's just jump into a couple of questions from our listeners today, and really appreciate all of the information and one-on-one stories that you've given us of your own experiences in building your own firms today. Do you use any social media marketing, and if so, how do you track your results? This is a common question that we hear from our virtual law office customers, specifically at Total Attorneys.
Mm-hmm. Do I do any social media marketing? Absolutely. I am, as Chelsea said at the beginning of the call, I am highly active on Twitter, more than I thought that I ever would be. I am highly active on Twitter. I am very active on Facebook. I am less active on LinkedIn because it's just not a good fit for me. But you need to remember something. Each one of these services is a platform, and that's all it is. And it's a platform to allow you to interact with other human beings as a human being. There's what is now becoming the tired old cliche of Twitter as a cocktail party, and that's true. When you go into a cocktail party, you don't walk up to everybody and start throwing your business cards in their face, because that makes you that person, and you're not going to get invited back, and you're going to wind not having a lot of fun either. So all these platforms do is they give you a means of communicating with other people and meeting other people and getting to know them. When you get to know somebody, you know, there's books and terms about all of this, and I can throw out WUFI and trust agent and all that stuff. But the reality is that when you get to know somebody, you get to like them. When you get to like them, you get to trust them. When you get to trust them, you're more inclined to do business with them, and that's really the end of that story. I do a tremendous amount of that. How do I track my results? I'll be honest with you, I don't track those results very closely, with the exception of doing one thing, which may or may not be helpful. Twitter, because you only get 140 characters, putting in a full URL to anything becomes just about impossible. So I use URL shorteners. I use bit.ly, which is bit.ly, that if you sign up for a free service, you can run any URL through bit.ly, and bit.ly gives you fantastic tracking data on the back end of that to see how far things are going. But with the exception of using bit.ly, I really don't do very much of that. That having been said, that since I became active on these social media platforms, I have found the traffic to my websites and blogs go through the roof, because my website and blog, and this feeds into the next question, what's the most successful marketing you've ever seen for your bankruptcy firm? One of the most successful bits of marketing that I can tell you is having a hub online, having an information-rich hub online, having my blog online that is regularly updated, that is incredibly well optimized, that speaks to the core needs of my client, and really gives them a reason to come back to visit time and time again, rather than just being one of these spit out basic information, what is Chapter 7 bankruptcy all over again, because quite frankly it's boring and there's a lot of places to find that stuff. So that's really not what people are coming to my practice sites for. But having that hub online and using those social media platforms in part to feed some of the traffic back to that hub is really the primary means of analytics that I'm using. And of course I can see my visitor tracking, my stat tracking from Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter into my sites, and I can tell you that social media traffic is perhaps the best traffic in terms of stickiness and bounce rate and user engagement mechanisms that you're ever going to get. So that's kind of a 1-2 punch on those first two questions. As to the third question, are my employees in-house, virtual, or outsourced? Virtual is outsourced. Let's not change terminologies, because all it does is it confuses everybody. Somebody who is virtual means that they don't physically work in my office. That is what it is, and that means that they're outsourced. I have employees in the office. I also have virtual employees. Now, up until January, all of my employees were virtual, and the reason why I now have in-house employees is because I entered into a partnership with somebody else in January, and they have a kick-ass office on the 72nd of the Empire State Building, and it's gorgeous. And he's kind of a sit in the chair and meet people face to face and shake their hands and look at them in the eyes sort of guy, and that's cool. But he had an existing staff, and he has needs that do not easily lend themselves to being virtual. And of course, the primary need is his own habit and his own bent towards having people physically there. So it's not like a business need, it's more of a psychological need, and I see nothing wrong with that at this point, and the folks in the office are nice and well trained and good at what they do, and I like my partner, and I don't want to piss him off by taking away his really nice office. So that's why we've got both now.
Great, and that concludes our session for today. We thank everyone for joining us, and I encourage you to follow Jay on Twitter at @Fleishman, as also his blog, legalpracticepro.com. Jay, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for your time this morning and joining us. We look forward to speaking to everyone again soon on the next Total Attorneys Power Chat.
Thanks for having me, Chelsea. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.